Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Academy. It's your host, Kristen, and we are in for a wild episode today. I can promise you that because we are talking about something that has absolutely changed my life, my existence on earth, my consciousness as a human. We are talking about mushrooms today. And if you don't know me, I am a mindset and confidence coach, angelic channel, and business guide. I'm a lot of things, but I really want to help you step into your soul's purpose, really just go on your path fully. I work a lot with overcoming the fear of being seen. I do a lot of things, but that's just a few of the things that I'm really passionate about. And if you're here, let me just say that I believe that you're here for a reason. Maybe the medicine has been calling you, maybe you've just been curious, but either way, we're going to figure it out, and you're just going to leave with a lot of knowledge of stuff to think about in your experience, and maybe you'll even leave wanting to experience this on your own or re-experience it. Who knows? But before I get into it, I just want to say that this information is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not a doctor. I'm not any sort of medical professional, and I'm also not telling you to take them. I'm just sharing my experience with mushrooms. So I just wanted to give that little disclaimer. With that being said, again, we're talking about something that honestly I never thought I would be talking about. So I really want to start with sharing my story with mushrooms because I think it will help a lot of people feel very seen, or you might be in the same place with them. Because a year ago today, I would have told you I will never do mushrooms or any type of psychedelic drug in my life. And I felt really passionate about this because I had had a lot of bad experiences when I was younger and wanted to, was trying to smoke weed or do whatever. And I just was like, you know what? It's just not for me. It's just not something that I desire to experience in this lifetime. Well, like most things in life, when we make a plan, God laughs. That's like one of my favorite quotes because it's so true. And this was my experience with mushrooms because God definitely laughed. As you guys know, I went through a really, really bad breakup February of this year. And right after that breakup, I went on a conscious creators retreat in Costa Rica that absolutely changed my life. And that is where my journey with mushrooms started. So a lot of you guys probably know my best friend, Bree. She is like a mushroom woman. She's worked with this medicine for so long. And I truly believe it's like her soul's purpose to really help other people find this medicine. And that's exactly what happened with me. We had gotten really close during the week. And then there was one night where it was like a party night and everyone was doing a little bit of mushrooms, more in a fun setting, not really in a healing setting, which, can be different experiences. But I was just like in this place of like, fuck it of the world that I was like, whatever. People say that you can heal and they're good for you or whatever. So like, sure, I'll do some. But I was really scared because again, I had no experience with this medicine and I didn't know what to expect. You hear mushrooms and you're like, oh my God, you're going to see things and like all of these things are going to change. And so I just took a really small microdose. I took 0.3, which now I know is like not enough for anything to happen. Really, you would just feel something maybe like a little more creative or something in your brain, but nothing visual is going to happen. Really, nothing's going to happen at all. And so I took that. And when nothing happened, I think that was a perfect introduction because I was like, oh, this isn't scary. So that's where it started. I took one little dose of it and then I went on my way. I went home. But obviously, after that retreat, I had a lot of healing to do. My journey was just getting started. My life just fell completely apart. So I was like, okay. And I was in Florida for a few months, just kind of like healing and getting my life together and getting the strength to, start a new life on my own, move back to California where I was living prior. And I was starting to do a lot more research about microdosing. And obviously I was friends with Bree now, who was kind of giving me the information like, oh yeah, it helped me heal so much. It helped me heal from my breakups. It helps you see things in a new perspective. It helps you feel like what you need to feel. And so I kind of got curious about this medicine just like a little more and started doing my own research. And if you have any desire to do mushrooms, then I am asking you to do your own research too. Like I'm inviting you to do your own research. Just listening to podcasts, right? Going on YouTube, reading articles, things like that, or just the research I was doing. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of really great reviews, articles, people saying that it really helped them. Like, I think that I need to work with this medicine. And then as I was thinking that, it was so weird. I went to see my former therapist and spiritual mentor, which I've had on my podcast. I think it's episode like 5 or 6, if you want to go listen to it, with Catherine. And when I was going to work with her, I was having a session with her, she kind of brought up mushrooms too. So when I've kind of found in my life, like when you see reoccurring patterns, that's like the universe trying to talk to you. It's like, oh, this is the way you're supposed to go, or you should try this, or I'm trying to lead you here, right? So that was what kind of happened. Catherine had suggested it too. So I was like, you know what? I think it's time to start microdosing. So I went on a microdosing protocol for, I think it was like a month and a half. I was like, there's a lot of different protocols, which like you do a day on, a day off, or 4 days on, 3 days off. Like there's a ton of different ways that you can do a protocol. And I was doing one, and it was really helping at first. And it's not what you want to get out of them. It's they are so intelligent, they know what you need from them. So a lot of times, even if you have an intention, which is super important when you're working with the medicine at all, it's really up to the mushrooms of what you needed. And during this period of healing, obviously I was crying a lot on my own, and the mushrooms honestly would just enhance this. And so after a month and a half, I did take a little break because I had to work basically, and I couldn't just cry all day. I was already crying a lot of the day. And so it just made it that it was like, there was so much grief to get out of me that I was like, okay, I need to take a little break. And you will know when the mushrooms are like, this is not for you right now. And I was having one of those moments where I was like, you know what? I'm moving through this on my own. I don't need any help right now. So I took a little break, but it was also really good for me because I would play with dosage, and I would be like, oh, that wasn't a lot, or I didn't feel anything. So I would go a little higher, or I would go a little lower. And I was just like getting really comfortable with the medicine. Then I went on a couple other trips with my friends, and I had more fun experiences with them. I would take like 0.5, which again, it's not enough to see anything, but it's just enough to like bring you into your heart, to heal a little bit, and have a lot of fun, because mushrooms can also really soak in your intention. And my intention when I was with my friends was to have fun, and I would feel so good when I would take like a little bit of a higher dose. And so from here, this is kind of how I got comfortable with the idea of taking a heroic dose of mushrooms. And if I haven't said that yet, that's what we're going to kind of get up to. Is in the past 8 months, I've taken 2 heroic doses of magic mushrooms, and it's absolutely shattered my reality, changed my life for the better, given me so many new perspectives. And mushrooms have taught me more in 6-hour trips than I have learned on the 11 years that I've been on my spiritual journey. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I really mean that. Mushrooms have really, 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 really helped me understand what spirituality truly is, and not this facade of crystals. I mean, crystals are very spiritual, but like, just wearing just flowy clothes. And I just understand the universe now. I know that's so weird to say, and I probably sound so woo-woo and so like someone who just got off of mushrooms, but I've had a couple weeks at this point to integrate my second heroic dose, and I'm just really excited to share the journey and some of the takeaways and the integration and all that stuff. So from there, I was continuing on my healing journey. I wasn't really microdosing, wasn't really feeling called. I would take a gummy with my friends like every once in a while, just more in a more fun setting. And then I got to this point on my healing journey where I was so sick of being so miserable. I was like, I need something big to shift me out of this. Like, I was in this place where I didn't even want to be alive anymore. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was in such a dark place. I can't really even explain how hard it is to go through a breakup, because if you've been through one, you already know. It's just like grief, the deepest grief I've ever felt. I didn't even see the point in living. I didn't see any joy. I didn't see how my life was going to get better. Like, I was just in so much pain. I didn't understand. I also didn't have closure in the breakup. So like, there was just so many things that were really leading me to push me to make a change in a big way. And fortunately, I had the tools around me and the people around me that had a tool for me, which was mushrooms. And so I think this was like in my awareness for probably like 3 months before I actually did it. I think I was just kind of preparing my psyche, like, okay, you're going to take a big dose of mushrooms. Things are going to shift for you. And I also want to say, like, mushrooms don't solve all your problems. Like, if you're going through a hard time right now, you might be really excited and be like, oh my gosh, I found the secret weapon. It's going to help. And it is going to help. But they don't fix your problems. They just give you perspectives for you to go integrate into your life that will eventually fix your problems, right? So it's a lot more about like perspective shifts and new ways of thinking and seeing the bigger picture versus fixing your life. So the analogy that's coming to mind is like, imagine you're like a little ant, just like, and your entire universe is your ant pile. Mushrooms would give you the ability to zoom out and see that like your ant pile is actually on a field, and the field is actually in a state, and the state is actually in a country, and like the country is on planet Earth. Like it just gives you more perspective of being like, oh, like there's more out there in the world, and like I have this new way of thinking about who I am in the universe and my place in it, right? That was kind of what mushrooms did for me. So long story short, that's kind of how I got into the place of taking a heroic dose. And I wanted to share that journey just because if you're like, this sounds great, but I'm not there yet, I'm just going to say like start with maybe microdosing. That was a really good place for me. And microdosing, you still get a lot of the benefits. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just going to share the benefits that I've had. When I do microdose, I feel very connected to myself. I feel super present in my body. I feel super creative and tapped into source consciousness. And I feel like I'm like channeling in my content. I'm channeling in when I'm writing or in my posts. Like I just feel really tapped in and like in flow. I feel really in touch with my emotions, which can be a really good thing or a really bad thing, right? Like you can be really happy or you can be really sad. But again, the mushrooms typically know what you need. So you're going to move through whatever you need to move through most of the time. So those are some of the benefits that I had from microdosing. But then taking a macrodose is a whole new ballgame, right? Because this is the space where you are going to see things, you're going to start to see the energy and the sacred geometry on the walls. Things are going to start to move. And a lot of people, you know, the haters are going to say, oh, well, Kristen, of course, like you're seeing all these things and like you're on drugs and that's fake. Like you're on a psychedelic. Of course, things are going to look different. But I know what feels true to me. And for me, mushrooms actually take away the illusion of what we're here, the life on earth. Like you see all the energy. And we talk about energy all the time, right? We talk about manifestation and we talk about changing our energy and raising our vibration and doing all these things. But we can't see the energy, so sometimes it's hard to believe. And when you do a heroic dose of mushrooms, when you take a lot of mushrooms, you can see the energy. You can see the energy on the walls, and you can be looking at a wall and you like are manipulating the energy and you're like, oh my gosh, this really is an energetic universe. Like it gives you so much perspective and belief because you see it with your own eyes. So for me, it really like takes away the illusion of life on earth and helps you see the truth of this reality, which is my belief is that like it is just a simulation. It is just a game. And when you know the rules of the game, you can play the game better, you know? And it's so weird too. I'm going to get into like my biggest lessons that mushrooms have taught me for sure. But I just kind of want to jam on what's coming through right now because like it's one thing to believe things and it's another thing to like know something for yourself. And I think that for me, I am the type of person, I'm super skeptical. I have a Virgo moon for all my astrology girlies and like I'm super practical. I need the facts. And for me, it was really, really, really important for me to see like the facts and experience something for myself. And I think that at the end of the day, that is what spirituality is. That's the difference for me with spirituality and religion is that religion is having an experience with God that someone is telling you about. Spirituality is having your own experience with God, however that looks for you, right? You get to decide what that looks like. But it was truly just the most life-changing experience. So I'm going to go over some of the biggest takeaways that these big doses of mushrooms have given me. And this is called a mushroom trip for a reason, is because you like go on a trip. Like it's a 6-hour long ceremony where you're going to have a lot of different parts of your trip. You're going to have a lot of different states of mind. You're going to have a lot of different feelings. You're going to have a lot of just different experiences in a trip. And like, think about when you go on a vacation, you have a lot of different experiences. The different days are like different things. A trip is like kind of the same. And so while every single trip, I'm always like, I'm never doing this again. Why did I do this? Why did I do this? I always come out and I'm like, I am so effing glad I did that, because the perspective shifts and the mirror of lessons that you get in the trip that also apply to your real life are so valuable and amazing. It just like, I can't quite explain it. It's just, you kind of have to experience it for yourself. I don't really know how else to explain it. But let's go ahead and talk about my first trip, which is really when I'm going to say, how do I say this without sounding like a freaking weirdo? I don't think I can. I basically understood what God is. Mushrooms have a very high frequency. And so the reason why they can make you emotional, and the reason why when you take them, like they'll kind of give you what you need versus like what you want out of them, is because since they have such a high vibration, when we consume them, what's happening is the mushrooms are trying to raise our vibration up to the vibration of the mushroom. What needs to happen when we raise our vibration? We have to release all the density, all the emotions, all the things that are holding our vibration down. This is trauma. This is emotions. This is things we haven't looked at. This is shadow work. This is inner child wounds, right? So this is also probably why you might have heard someone say they had a bad trip, because homie, your shadow is going to come up. All the stuff that you don't deal with comes up in mushroom trips. And it's because it wants you to deal with it so it can raise your vibration up so that you can have that experience with the really high frequencies, which always for me happens at the end. And again, I've only really done 2 big trips, but at the end, it's like the middle is so miserable and then the end is fucking amazing. For my first trip, I'm just going to kind of recap it. There was a few really cool parts. The first really cool part, I was really, really, really crying a lot in the first trip, just releasing a lot of grief, working on my abandonment wounds, kind of seeing where I had felt rejected and just dealing with a lot from the breakup, honestly. There was this moment in the first trip I did, and it was so interesting. It was this moment where I was only operating at the consciousness of everyone's higher self. So I was seeing how everyone's higher self had facilitated little parts of my story on earth, all to lead me to that exact moment where I was going to find myself as God or source consciousness. And it was like I saw my ex breaking up with me, and then I saw my friend Bree giving me, the microdose, and I saw this other friend do this, and then this other friend call me and tell me I should do this, and then my therapist do this. And all of these little pieces had led me to this exact moment. And this exact moment was a really important moment in my life where I understood what God is, who God is, and that I actually am a piece of that. I know I sound so weird, but when you're in this consciousness, you are having a full ego death, meaning I am detaching from the identity as Kristen and I am recombining with the true identity as source consciousness. So that was one of the big, really amazing takeaways of the first trip. And then there was this point where I was just kind of going in my mind. I was talking to my friend that I was with at the time, and I'm just like, girl, I don't think I'm Kristen. And she had the same experience. So she was like the perfect person to really walk me through all of this. I was like, I'm not Kristen. I'm pretending to be Kristen. She was like, yeah, tell me more. And I was like, I think I'm God. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, and you are too. And you're pretending to be my best friend. And she was like, yeah. And I was just having this conversation, and it's really ego shattering when you're in it. Like, it's really, really hard because you don't actually know, like I'm like, yeah, we're a piece of God and like blah, 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 but you don't know it like that. Like, you are having that full experience of like, I actually can't even see the world as Kristen anymore. I'm only in this source consciousness. So basically I get blasted into the source consciousness and I am seeing everything as source. I'm like, this isn't real. This is just a video game. Like, I just created this for myself to experience life and go through all of these things, all of these heartbreaks, all of these friendship endings, finding my purpose, losing myself, finding myself. Like, the point of life, I was like, oh my God, like, this isn't what I thought it was. It felt like the only thing that's real. And then it was like I was that little ant who got that zoom out of like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this picture. There's so much more to this story. And so that was really the biggest takeaway of my first mushroom trip. I feel like I met my true self. I met my higher self. I was able to connect with that source consciousness. And I had so many beautiful moments of being like, oh my God, like the only point is to experience. And I'm here experiencing it, and it's just a game and it's not real. And I think, I was really wanting to deal with the breakup then. And I was like, oh my God, if I'm God and you're God and you're God and you're God and you're God, then it's like I rejected me to find myself. Oh my God, how amazing, how beautiful is it that we play these games on ourselves so that we can find ourselves and come into more wholeness. It was just a really beautiful experience of understanding what my life was in this moment. And again, when you come out, you are on like a little high horse and you're so tapped in and it feels so good, but you do have to come out and integrate and really take action on the lessons that you've learned and learn, like, what do I do with this knowledge now? A big thing for me was I had to teach it. Like, source consciousness was like, you need to share this message and this knowledge with everyone else. And I was just like, that's a big thing to ask, That's why I'm only now 6 months later sharing about these trips, is because you have to integrate this knowledge for yourself and really just have it to think on it and unpack it and integrate it in a way that makes sense for you at first. Another lesson I learned is really the point of the human experience. So in one of the trips, I had this moment. It was the second trip. And since I knew kind of what to expect on this one, I kind of like went in a lot quicker and it didn't take me as much emotion or anything to get there. There was this point where I was talking to my guides. I was talking to source consciousness, and I was just like, what's the point of this? There's no point. Why are we here just experiencing trauma and this dumb story? Like, I just don't get it. What's the point? And it was beautiful because towards the end of the trip, it was like, what's the point? Became, there's no point. There's literally no point but to experience life. And that's the biggest thing that mushrooms have given me. Like, all my friends have been like, Kristen, you're so much more chill after you've taken these. Like, you just realize that the point of life is to experience, is to have fun. Yes, it's to evolve as a soul, but there's also no point. We take life so seriously. I was so rigid. Everyone's so rigid. They just think that everything is so serious. And at the end of the day, this is a playground. This is a place for you to know yourself and make mistakes and have fun and like quit your job and go travel and do all these like beautiful things. And we just kind of get caught up in the story. And I love that saying. I don't really remember where I heard this, but it's just like, at the end of our life, all the actors are going to go backstage and just like unpack everything that happened, to be like, it felt so real. It felt so real. But guys, that's the reality. Like, we are just acting. You are just pretending to be who you are. I am just pretending to be Kristen, teaching you about yourself right now, because this is your knowledge too. This is all just a game, and it's made up, and it's for our evolution, and it's an algorithm. And that's going to bring me to my next lesson, is like, this universe, this earth plane was made to help you find yourself, your true self, not your ego self, not Kristen, as source consciousness. And one of the rules of the game is that you get what you want with self-worth. Knowing who you are and believing you're deserving of it is how you get what you want. It's how you get money. It's how you get the relationships you want. But also, there's a lot of nuances there, right? You can't settle. You have to say no to the things that are not what you want. Like, there's just so many different things to unpack within that. But this is just an algorithm, and it's so crazy because when you can see all the sacred geometry like on the walls, and when you can see all the energy moving, you're like, this is literally a hologram. Like, this isn't real. This is a hologram. I can see through it. I can move the energy. I can manipulate it. Like, what the heck? And so that was a really beautiful experience to just have for myself. And, it's so funny because my guides knew, they were priming me for it. But right before I did either of the mushroom trips, I was like consuming a lot of content on like, the earth is a simulation and this isn't real. And I was like, okay, like, I'm interested in this, but, and then I experienced it for myself. So it's just so funny how like sometimes we'll take in information that is going to click later. And that was definitely one of those times. But really, out of that whole, there's no point, what you have to remember is that the human experience, the point of it is all of the things. It's not just the happiness. It's about the grief. It's about the sadness. It's about losing friends. It's about losing the parent. It's about going through breakups. And it's like, the point of it is to see the beauty in all of it. The whole thing is beautiful. You have to find beauty in the pain. You have to find beauty in the heartbreak. You have to find beauty in all of it. That's what makes it the human experience. If it was only good, it wouldn't be the human experience. And so when I was there, like my guides were showing me, this is the whole point. You're on schedule. And you have to find the beauty in all of it, because one day when you're 80 and you're about to leave this earth plane, you're going to want it back. You're going to want to go swim in oceans again. You're going to want to go to the grocery store again. You're going to want to have a sleepover with your friend. You're going to want to book a vacation again. And you have to be there for all of it. You have to find the beauty in all of it, because you're going to want it back one day. I also tried to hack a little bit. And while I was in the mushroom trip, I was like, what's going to happen next? I was like, okay, guides, we're having this conversation now. What's going to happen next? And my guides were like, you're a human. You opted in to not know what's going to happen next. And that should be the beauty of this earth plane, is that it's always unfolding. We're making it up with you. We don't know what's going to happen next, because you have free will too. And we're all making it up as we go. And so it's this beautiful paradigm shift of, instead of hating the unknown, it made me really excited for the unknown, because it's like, oh my God, there's infinite possibilities. And now that I know who I am, I can make anything happen. And that's really exciting, that I don't know how it's going to unfold. The other thing that I want to share, I know I'm kind of all over the place, but it's kind of hard because it's not sequential in the trip. A lot of the lessons that you learn actually come from after, when you get to integrate and think about the lesson. So it's not I can tell you in a sequence of what happened, because it wouldn't even make sense. Because when you're down there, the other thing is you don't get to take it all with you. So you're having massive downloads and you're really understanding deep concepts about the universe, but you're in another state of mind. You're in another state of consciousness, and you can't bring it all with you. And that was the thing when I was down there, up there, wherever I was, in another state of consciousness. It was I was talking to my guides, and there was this one point where I think it was 11:11 or something. And I was like, oh, 11:11 angel numbers. And they were like, when you guys see a sign, you think it's someone else sending you the sign, but it's really you, the piece of you, your soul fragment, sending yourself the sign. So you think it's outside of yourself, but it's really you sending it to you, so that you can observe patterns in this matrix and remember oh, I'm supposed to go this way, or oh, that was a sign, I'm supposed to do this, or whatever that sign means to you. Maybe even just a reminder that you're guided and you're on the right path. Those are the signs we send to ourselves. So I thought it was funny, because I love angel numbers. I see them a lot. I have so many occurrences with them daily, and I didn't really know what they meant, but my guides were just sharing that it's you sending messages to you about whatever you think is true. And that was the other thing. They were like, you guys think that you can get your messages wrong, but you don't understand that you are the thought. You can't get it wrong, because it's all you. I don't know how to explain that. You can't get it wrong. It's all you. The last lesson I'm going to share from my mushroom experience is, during my second trip, I was with my best friend, Brie. We were in Joshua Tree. And if you haven't seen, then we're taking a group of women to Joshua Tree to do a mushroom ceremony. So we have a few spots left. If you want to go ahead and apply, you can reach out to me on Instagram. But one of the beautiful things that happened was, when we were in this trip together, we were separately tripping, but we were obviously together. It was just us two. And we were both not in a really good state of mind. We were both out of it. We didn't know where we were. We were just really not okay for some of the trip. And she kind of got out of the trip and was experiencing all the oneness, because it's really hard in the middle. And then at the end, you find yourself as source consciousness again, and it's beautiful. You're oh my God, I get it. I had to go through the darkness to find the light, and the contrast makes this moment so much better. And that's earth too, the hard parts make the good parts even better. And you kind of just have to come back into that source consciousness fully. So she's out of it. She's experiencing the bliss and the joy and understanding what she just went through. But I am very much so still in it. And she kept on saying this thing to me. She goes, Kristen, if it's not over, if you're not experiencing joy yet, it's just not over. just wait till it's over and then you're going to experience the joy. And I'm like, no, I don't know who I am. Like, this is really bad. I don't feel right. I'm really confused. Like, and she's like, Kristen, it's just not over. If you're not feeling joy yet, it's just not over. Just wait till it's over. And it's so beautiful that she kept on saying that to me, because that was one of my biggest takeaways of the trip is I see now, like, if you're going through a painful experience, a hard experience, a difficult experience, and you're not seeing the beauty in it, you don't have gratitude for it yet, you're not grateful and experiencing joy in your present moment, it's okay. It's just not over. Just wait until it's over. And that was the thing. I was like, okay, well, how do I make it over? And she's like, you just have to wait it out. Like, the only way is through. This was so good for me because in my second trip, one of my intentions going into it was really just to release any like last lingering grief or pain or whatever that I was holding on to from the breakup, just so I could start the new year in a really amazing place and feeling fully aligned with my true self. And there was so many points where I was just like, when is this over? And like, now I just look at it and I'm like, if I'm ever experiencing a little bit of pain, it's okay. It's just not fully over yet. And it's mostly over, but it's going to be beautiful. And I'm going to see the full picture of it. You just have to delay that thought that it's all going to shit for a little bit longer for you to see the entire picture of what's going on. And that was exactly what happened in the trip, is like, I just was being impatient. The only way was through. If I could just delay that thought that everything was going to shit for just a little bit longer, I was going to see how everything had a perfectly beautiful loop. And that is just a life lesson that I think I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life is, if it's not beautiful yet, it's just not over. Just keep going, and it's going to be over soon, because everything is temporary. Those were my biggest takeaways from my mushroom trip. I hope you got some nuggets of wisdom. Maybe you are feeling the urge to work with the medicine yourself, or maybe you need a heroic dose. Who knows? But just know that this message did not come to you on accident. Everything is actually perfect. And that was something that the mushrooms taught me too, is that a lot of times we think that source doesn't have our back, or things are going to shit, or things are not unfolding the way that they should be. But everything is perfect. It's perfect. You just can't see the perfection yet because you're still going through it, right? It's like, those like visual things where it's like you're really zoomed in and then you zoom out and you can see the whole picture. That's what life is. It's like, you're not going to get it all. That's the point of being human. But when you look back at your life and all of these painful events and all the things that you've been through and all of the trauma that you endured and how your dad left you and all of these stories that we pity ourselves, you are going to realize that it was all perfect for you. And it was all helping you grow in the perfect way so that you could get the most out of life and your soul evolution. Well, actually, you don't really have to get a lot out of it, because that was the other thing, is like Source was like, you don't really have to, like, there's no point. I'm not going to be mad at you. You experience what you want to experience, and that is the perfect experience for your soul. So there's a lot of, I feel like, contradicting, not beliefs, but like things that happen when you're in the trip, because you're like, it matters, but it also doesn't matter. And like, obviously the point is to evolve as a soul, but it also doesn't matter if we evolve as a soul, because like we can do it again and we're going to evolve as a soul regardless. So yeah, there was just a lot of amazing big takeaways. This felt like a really big rant, but I hope you guys got something out of it. If you guys have any more questions on microdosing or my trip, I'm happy to answer any questions. You guys can always DM me on Instagram, on TikTok. And if you have been loving my episodes, I just want to please ask that you give me a 5-star review on whatever platform you're on. Like, subscribe, do all the things. I am paying for this podcast out of pocket, producing it all myself right now. And so it really just helps the show grow. Share this with someone maybe you want to do a mushroom trip with, or maybe is interested in mushrooms. And you never know what little planted seed is going to just like create something really big, a shift in someone's life like it did for me. And so I hope you guys learned a lot. Thank you guys for spending your time with me. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.